Well, welcome back to the Gopher's Workshop. I'm your host, Aaron, and joining me, as always, is my fellow host, Chris.
Me.
And Sky.
That's me.
I realized last episode I did not introduce any of us, so hopefully you've listened to the first 3 episodes, and you know who we are.
I don't know who I am anymore.
I never did.
Womp, womp, womp. Anyway, so we're back. We're talking more Grotmas Detachments, March Madness Detachments. Marchmas Detachments?
I coined the phrase. It's mine. Leave it alone.
At any rate, we're picking it back up with Chaos, right, Chris?
Yep, we left off on Chaos, so we'll finish up some Chaos stuff, and then we'll complete the round of detachments with Xenos. And if you haven't listened to the first episode, because Imperium didn't really apply to you, that's totally okay. But just so you know, we're going to also include some of the March detachments in here. We're just going to bundle them together as we hit that faction. And we'll remind you as we get to those which one is which.
Spicy.
Alrighty, we'll just kick it off because this is probably going to be another long episode. We're going to start with the Death Guard. So let me start by saying this detachment's unfair. Every other detachment is like flavorful or does a thing. This one, I'm convinced. They went up to all the Death Guard players and they said, "What do you want?" "I don't want to think about it." And then the Death Guard players said, "Well, I want these things." And they gave them exactly what they wanted. I want exactly what I wanted. That's Death Guard got it. It's so good. So Death Guard infantry units from your army that are not embarked within transports have Scout 5 inches and Stealth. This is nuts. So Death Guard are already durable, right? And we made them more durable with Stealth across the board. That sounds great. Then you gave them all Scout 5. Well, it turns out like the biggest drawback to Death Guard is they're so slow. But now they all have Scout 5, so they're basically get a full turn of free movement. That's nuts. It only applies to infantry. I guess we have to pretend there's balance in the world somewhere. That's fair. But also, this detachment's hilariously good. Death Guard are still technically on index. We're going to get their codex later this year, but as long as they are on index, while their index detachment, I wouldn't have said was bad because it's not. But when you compare the two, holy cow, play this detachment. It is so much better. It's just great. Stratagems, they're not like the greatest, but some of them could be better, but they're still cheap. Some of them are awesome and still cheap. Enhancements, I would argue, are kind of above average across the board. It's not that any of them are like fully auto include, but they're all reasonably priced. They're like kind of cheap compared to some of the other Grotmas stuff that we've seen. And they're all solid as far as what they do. So I want to talk about this so much, but it's hard to it's hard to go back and forth and like, there's this, but that. It's like, no, it's kind of all upside. Like, there's less debuffs in this one because you don't have the index detachment, but I don't know that it matters. You're just there a whole turn earlier rolling dice. This is amazing. Play this. Moving on. The Thousand Suns, the Hex Warp, they have a flow of magic rule. This is kind of like we've talked before about the Necron Power Nexus detachment. That's basically what this is, except for Thousand Suns. So your deployment zone always counts as the flow of magic. At the start of any battle round, if you control at least half the objective markers in No Man's Land, then the No Man's Land also counts as flow of magic. And at the start of any phase, if you control at least half the objective markers in your opponent's deployment zone, which is to say the one, it also counts as flow of magic. So what do you get? Each time a Thousand Suns model from your army makes a psychic attack, you get to reroll wound rolls of 1 if such a model is wholly within, and this is by model, wholly within the flow of magic, then you get to, for psychic attacks, add 1 to the wound roll. These technically stack. It doesn't say that it's instead of. So if you're wholly within the flow of magic, you get to reroll wound rolls of 1 and add 1 to the wound roll for psychic attacks. It's only psychic attacks, but it's only Thousand Suns, which means there's a lot of psychic attacks. Seems pretty good. As far as the detachment's concerned, I'm going to argue this is a little higher on the skill cap required to like play competitively, because you don't want to like overextend too hard, trying to get that power matrix to go off, but you do want the power matrix to go off. This is a little more forgiving than something like the Necrons because it's by model, not model has to be wholly within, not unit wholly within. That's kind of an upside. The as a reminder, this is the faction rule, not detachment rule, is Doombolt. I mean Cabal points. So you still have access to all that. The index detachment is all about more and more Cabal points. So basically it's Doombolt the detachment. Doombolt's crazy good. No arguments. However, I think this is way better into more matchups, because while Doombolt is crazy good, no arguments, there are some matchups where it's definitely less efficient. This whole detachment gives you more flexibility, both in stratagems and detachments. A lot of the strats are similar, they're like slightly different. But like the core idea of number of defensive strats, number of offensive strats, things like that, it's actually pretty similar to the index detachment. So I'm going to argue, other than maybe overextending yourself and getting in trouble for that, I think this is all around a better detachment. There are times where you can totally prove me wrong and the index detachment's better because Doombolt was just more efficient during that specific matchup. But I'm going to argue I would play this detachment more often than the index detachment as well. When we get their codex later this year, I may turn out to, don't play this anymore. We'll see. But for the time being, I also think this Grotmas Detachment is the way to go. Moving down the list, we've got World Eaters. World Eaters at the start of the battle round, after activating the Blessings of Khorne, which is their faction rule, so you have to roll a bunch of dice and get some cool stuff. You can select one or more models from your army that are listed below, including models that are embarked in transports. World Eater characters, excluding epic heroes. 8-bound champions, Exalted 8-bound, Khorne Berserker champion, and World Eater Terminator champion. So these are all basically the sergeants of the units. And this only applies to those models. You can select them. The maximum number you can select each turn depends on the battle size. For Strike Force, it's going to be 3, which is our normal 2,000 points. Till the end of the battle round, each one of those models has the Vessel of Wrath keyword. The selected Blessing of Khorne that is not currently active, until the end of the battle round, that blessing is active for that Vessel of Wrath unit. And this is in addition to their active ability. So basically, you get to roll dice and pick some cool stuff. Applies to the whole army. Then you get to pick a couple of units, and as long as the sergeant is alive, he probably will be, you then get to get another ability that you actually select. You don't even have to roll for, you just pick it. Also nuts. This detachment, unlike this faction, unlike some of the others that we just talked about, there's an argument to maybe the main detachment because of the stratagems and enhancements. Maybe these are more on par with each other. This isn't like an objectively you should play this over the other one. However, I would still do it. The ability to but I didn't roll the bonus to move, or I didn't roll the advance charge. I can nope, but I wanted it. I get it exactly when I say so. Sounds amazing to me. I would probably play this most of the time, but there's a way more reasonable argument too. But the index detachment's still very playable and still competitive, and maybe you should still do that. I think the strats overall in this one are definitely less defensive, but they're more kind of utility. You have like access to like a sticky objective strat and stuff like that. So they're somewhat restrictive because they mostly apply to like the vessel units. But while they're less defensive, they're more utility. I think they're good. The enhancements are absolutely great in this detachment. You don't have the crazy one that's the auto include from the index detachment, but overall, I think that the enhancements in this are very good. In addition to being very good, they're also reasonably pointed for what they do. Again, I would probably play this detachment, but this isn't like if you're not playing this, you're wrong. This is a more of a, it's probably the right choice, but depends on what you're looking for.
I'm noticing a pattern here with the Grotmas Detachments.
They love chaos. You're right. Absolutely. I like going through the Imperium stuff. There were so many that I'm like, but why would you play this? Don't do it. Or like, this isn't quite good enough, but it's not bad.
Yep.
The minute we touch chaos, it's like, but why aren't you doing this? Do this. You do not do anything else. They love chaos.
Yeah, it's a Terminators and Chaos edition.
Pretty much. And this whole summer is going to be codex after codex of chaos. So it's only going to get worse. All right. Moving on to more chaos. Now we're going to do the demons. Demons, because they love chaos, absolutely got away with some crazy stuff. They got 4 new detachments for chaos demons. Technically 5 because we just got one in March. So much.
Lucky sons of guns.
Pretty much. It's some of them are less crazy, but also some of them are surprisingly good. So we'll start with Khorne, because that's what most people think of when they think of demons. None of these faction specific detachments limit you to only taking Khorne, but they only give benefits to Khorne, for example. So you can still take some other stuff that's pretty cool if you need to round out your list. But the benefits only apply to their like specific sub-faction for each of these detachments. So for Khorne, each time an enemy unit ends a normal move or advanced move within 6 of one of your Khorne units, that Khorne unit can make a surge move. You roll 1d6 and you get to move that number of inches. It specifically calls out that you're allowed to end within engagement range of the enemy when they do this. So that means 1/3 of the time, because they have to end within 6, on a 5 or a 6, so 1/3 of the time, you can just be within engagement range because they ended too closely. This is incredibly powerful defensively because you are turning off their fights first. If they have other charge bonuses like Lance, you're just turning it off. It's kind of crazy.
Now,
yes, you don't get fights first, but also you weren't doing this during your turn. So
does that turn off Lance if it's equipped to a weapon still too?
Yep, because you didn't make a charge move that turn.
Oh my god.
Super good. It also turns off your opponent's counter charge because they can only counter charge in like your charging phase.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Super good. Also, they have a second ability because that wasn't enough. At the end of any phase, or at the end of a phase, I guess it says, in which a Khorne unit from your army is destroyed or has destroyed an enemy unit that was within range of an objective marker. If you control, your level of control, your OC, is higher than theirs, you sticky that objective. So it's army-wide sticky for Khorne, except for you have to actually kill a unit for the sticky to apply. So it's kind of restrictive, but the fact that the first part was arguably like enough to be a normal detachment rule, and then they gave us something else, it's not the best, but also it's pretty good and no complaints, right? It's mostly bonus upside.
Sticky Khorne. That's all I heard was sticky Khorne.
Yeah, it's Absolutely. I think this detachment is mostly a gotcha detachment. The reason I say that is because this is another one of those detachments that it depends on the skill level of the players involved in the game. But this time it's the opposite. So you as a good player, you can be good with attachment. Sounds good. That's fine. But if your opponent is a good player, they're going to be a hair outside of 6 every time. They're willing to roll an extra 1 or 2 inches on the charge to prevent you from stopping their charge at all, right? So I think if you're playing against a good player, this detachment's going to feel very bad because they're basically going to turn off your abilities the whole game. It's like you don't have a detachment rule at all. If they're a bad player, you are going to gotcha them so hard so many times. It's going to feel incredibly powerful. I don't know that like sticky objective is that impressive to me. It's kind of good, but demons aren't incredibly high in OC to begin with. So not only do you have to kill a unit, so you probably had the objective anyway, the ability to like run off of the objective is kind of whatever, because like they were probably coming to you at that point and you were still going to be stuck on the objective. You don't have a ton of OC to keep it stickied. Enhancements are good. A little on the high price, but not bad. I'm willing to accept it. Strats are only okay. Again, I don't mind them, but they're all right. I think for Khorne, the index detachment is probably better. Just because competitively, again, if they're a good player, they can turn off your detachment so hard that like the only time this is going to be kind of impressive is if you really grind over the middle. And as a demon player, you're not that tough, right? You got like a 5 of invul, but you're still like T3 a lot. You're still T4 a lot. If you're grinding over the middle to where it's like, but if I get within 6, I have to, because that's the only way that I can be on the objective, and I'm bad at melee. I need to shoot. Well, even in that scenario, that's like the only time where they're going to be convinced to let you get your surge move. But at that point, they're like, that just means you're going to engage me and turn off my shooting anyway. So do I really even want to risk that? It's not great. I think if your list is already, like you put the list together, you don't care about the detachment, your list is already like 80% or more Khorne, maybe this is the detachment for you. But it's got to be like almost entirely Khorne with like 2 units of Nurglings for me to consider this detachment, because the index detachment is probably better because it's just not a gotcha detachment. It's just reasonable. Okay. Moving on. We got the old Tzeentch. Tzeentch has, I would argue, one of the most interesting detachments. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's the most interesting. It does something that's kind of unique compared to everybody else, like in the whole game. At the start of the battle, you get 3 flux tokens. So you have to, this is just another resource you have to track, kind of like Eldar's battle focus stuff. Then you can spend a flux token when just after you roll an advance roll, a hit roll, a wound roll, or a damage roll, or a saving roll, or a hazardous test. As long as it is for a Tzeentch unit or model, you get to re-roll that by spending one of the things. So basically, these are a bunch of free command points that have to be spent only on command point re-roll and only when involving a Tzeentch unit. Sounds pretty good. No complaints. But what's weird about it is every time you spend a flux token, you give a flux token to your opponent. Then they can spend them as command reroll, but it doesn't have the restriction of targeting a Tzeentch unit. They just get to a bunch of command point rerolls. So this is giving your opponent a benefit. In response to you getting a benefit, arguably the answers were still even. The problem with this is they have a detachment rule that doesn't also benefit you. So this is kind of you giving up your detachment roll for both players to have extra CP. Weird. Furthermore, there's a bunch of stuff that basically says, whether it's strategy or the detachment itself or enhancements or whatever, but basically in your command phase, if your opponent has one or more flux tokens that they haven't given back yet, you gain a flux token. And every time they spend a flux token, they give the token back to you. So there's a absolute ton of command rerolls that are happening in this game. Because since this isn't a stratagem, it also doesn't limit you to like once per phase. So you could spend all 3 on the same unit on the, like, you can't reroll a reroll, but also I had to make like 10 saves for my Lord of Change. Well, I could reroll 3 of the fails all at once and spend all 3 flux tokens. It's kind of crazy. There's an argument too, your opponent could not spend any of them and not gain an advantage, but in doing so, he limits you to basically 1 flux token every turn for the rest of the game. That's a viable strategy, but the fact that you still get 1 every turn is like not ideal. He probably gets more advantage by actually getting the rerolls and handing them back to you. So it's super interesting. I love where we're going. It's kind of fun in my opinion. However, competitively, the gain that you get, knowing like what weapons each has access to, what kind of like advanced times you'd want to use it, the number of saves you'd want to use. I don't know that you as a Tzeentch player are gaining as much advantage as your opponent potentially is. I don't think I love it, at least not competitively. It's not bad. It's very interesting, but I don't know that it's super competitive. I would probably still stick to the side of Index. Again, if you're like 80 or 90% Tzeentch, like you're playing all Tzeentch, you take a couple of nerdlings and call it good or something like that. Maybe this is still viable because it's fun and interesting, but I don't know that it's necessarily competitive. I think doing like a Monster Mash list with this to where you could like use those flux tokens on like damage rerolls is probably your best option, because now you're turning those rerolls into actual damage like your opponent probably is, instead of just keeping some, pink horrors or screamers alive or whatever. The enhancements overall, I think, are surprisingly good. Whether it's points or the ability, I think they're both very good. The stratagems are also good. I don't know that they make up for the fact that you're giving your opponent a lot of advantage, but it's still pretty good. And I'm saying the strats are good with one exception. The Pyrogenesis is awful. It's the only one that costs 2 CP, which makes it worse objectively from the start. But it's supposed to be really powerful, right? Well, the ability is okay. And then the ability gets better if you also spend a flux token. Well, now I'm spending 2 CP and a flux token, effectively giving my opponent a CP. And then I get an okay ability. It's awful. If you're playing this detachment, do not use that stratagem ever. I hate it. I hate it so much. I have no idea why they decided that was somehow powerful. Anywho. So yeah, again, this detachment is pretty solid. I don't hate it. It seems super fluffy and flavorful, but competitively, I don't think we're there. It's just, it gives your opponent way too much for what you're getting out of it. All right. Last god, Slaanesh, the old Legion of Excess.
Hey, there's still Gork and Mork.
Well, not in this realm.
I knew it was coming.
Okay, so Legion of Excess is, I'm going to argue, the best one. Also, it's not the last one. I forgot we haven't done Nurgle yet.
I was going to say, yeah, we did Nurgle.
I'm crazy. It's fine. So this detachment is probably the best one. I actually think it's amazing. Not because it's super powerful, but just because it's so efficient. If you can make good choices, it's hilariously good. It's also the only detachment where in March, the data slate made some minor adjustments to nerf this because it's actually really good. At least amongst the 3 or 4 gods here. Okay, so the detachment itself says all Slaanesh demon units are eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which they fall back. We're demons. We have very little guns. Feels good, right? Pretty happy. Then, second ability, all Slaanesh demons have the following ability. Seductive Gambit. Each time this unit ends a charge move, you can declare if it's performing the Seductive Gambit ability. If you do, until the end of the phase, this unit does not have the Fights First ability. But in addition, instead, the unit gets to make full rerolls to hit and wound. The adjustment to nerf this is basically saying that you have to be within the Shadow of Chaos, which is an aura around every monster demon, basically, period. You're probably there. It's also a zone thing, so your deployment zone's always within the shadow. If you control half or more of the midfield, it's also within the shadow. So there's ways to make this fairly easily work. Even if you can't control objectives for whatever reason, you just stick close to the Keeper of Secrets and you still get it. This in itself is very good. And the reason it's good is not because it's super powerful, but because it's so efficient. Taking a bunch of demonettes, not great, but fine. Taking a bunch of demonettes and charging, when you want fights first because you're fighting a good melee unit, you get it. Sounds great. In a turn in which you charge something that's bad at fighting back, so let's say a tank or even Hellblasters, right? They can kind of swing back, but also they're not very good at it. They're meant to shoot. When you are charging into these things that are not good at fighting back, you can give up fights first. Why? Because who cares? What are they going to do? Kill 1 demonette, maybe 2? I don't care. But getting full rerolls to hit means that your demonettes that are awful, they do not want to tank bust ever, all of a sudden become surprisingly reasonable, because with full rerolls to hit and full rerolls to wound, you start getting a real number of saves your opponent has to make. This is hilariously efficient. It shouldn't be as good as it is. And it's not even it's a wombo combo super powerful. It's just about efficiency. That's all it is. Like I said, any tough target taking full rerolls because they're probably not great at melee. It's pretty solid. If they are good at melee, then fights first is probably what you wanted. If it's not, why did you charge them? If full rerolls isn't what you want and fights first isn't enough, I don't know why we charged them. We were sacrificial anyway. It's fine. Enhancements are great. I love the enhancements here. Again, like most of Grotmas, I think they're a little on the expensive side, but also for what they do, I'm not even going to complain this time. I'm still calling them great. Stratagems are great. I wish there wasn't a 2 CP cost one, because I actually like that stratagem, and because we don't really have a way to reduce the cost of the stratagem, I don't love that it costs 2 CP. Wish it was 1, but I still think the other stratagems are awesome. So sounds good. This is probably the only one that I would argue is actually better than the index detachment for demons. That being said, I'm still going to say that you're going to have to alter your list slightly, because this only benefits Slaanesh. So you got to run at least 50% Slaanesh. You're probably going to do that if you're using this attachment anyway, but it's still probably worth it. I think this is not a ton better, but it is definitely better than the indexed attachment. Okay, and now the last for demons here, before we get to, at least for Grotmas, is Nurgle. I hate it. The detachment is in theory not bad, but it has several matchups that are objectively poor. I don't think this is competitively playable.
You said the word. It's arguably not bad.
If you know your local meta well enough, and your local meta doesn't involve like a single Tyranid player ever, and also several other factions like Necrons, yeah, maybe. Okay, so what it does is while an enemy unit is within 9 inches of one or more Nurgle units within your army, the enemy unit, or that enemy unit, is within the Shadow of Chaos, and in each player's combat or command phase, that enemy unit must take a battle shock test. So in theory, this is good, right? Because the way Shadow of Chaos works is if they fail, not only are they battle shocked with no OC, can't be targeted with strats, like Armor of Contempt, stuff like that, but also they're going to take some mortal wounds. That's just the way Shadow of Chaos works. In theory, this is good. But there are so many factions. Tyranids are the best example, right? Because in this edition, Tyranids are reasonably popular. They're showing up to most tournaments in like an acceptable number. And their whole thing is Synapse lets them leadership on 3d6. Then you have other factions like Necrons, where they're not only regenning probably more wounds than you're doing with this ability, but also they have like good leaderships. Leadership is not a thing you fail like 50% of the time. So you fail like a third or less. It's probably more like a quarter of the time for most units. So overall, I think this is pretty rough. In theory, this could be good. There are several factions. Man, this could be impressive. But also the number of factions where this feels impressive compared to the number where it just doesn't work at all, way too similar for me to think this is like competitively viable. The enhancements I think are also bad, which is another reason that I don't love it. Like some of them are just too expensive for what they do. The cheaper ones, I don't think do enough, even despite them being cheap. The biggest thing here is that you're playing Nurgle. And if you look at most demons lists, there's like a great unclean one in every list, right? At least back when we were using index stuff. And the reason for that makes Nurgle look really good is because the Nurgle enhancement in the core detachment is so impressive. Well, now the minute you take this, your great unclean one doesn't have access to that enhancement, and the other enhancements here are bad. It's just another nail in the coffin of I don't think you should play this. I will say the reason to play this detachment is to help your friends learn. If you're a demon player and you've got enough Nurgle to play this detachment has enough to it, but also is like so not competitive. This is like the ideal way to teach another player how to like the game or get them to be more competitive, because leadership tests, they fail so rarely, just base stats, that it's not really that powerful. But when it does fail, it feels like you're doing something, even if the thing you're doing isn't a lot. Like that's the best thing I can say about this attachment is if I played Chaos, I would probably use this as a learner faction. And that feels good because my opponent feels like I'm not holding back, but also I'm effectively taking it like reasonable, like difficulty on them to where they still have plenty of room to like learn and grow. And I'm not just tabling them or whatever else because they're still learning. I wouldn't play it. I didn't even put a number of like at least 90% was Nurgle. It's playable. You could be 100% Nurgle and I would still probably play the index detachment. Okay, last demons for real this time.
Really?
Yes.
Are you sure?
For real,
The Eldar might make another one by the time you're done.
You're probably right. I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm trying to rush a little bit because I know our last video took forever and we have more detachments this time than last time. But there's a March detachment for demons. The March detachment is kind of like the Knights detachments, where you get to add a faction in that you're not supposed to. So it's a long list, but it's a fairly short list of Chaos Space Marine units that you can add into your demon faction list in order to help balance them out. There's a cap of 1,000 points, or half your list, I should say, as far as like the maximum points you're allowed. And there's also the restriction as to the list of the different units that you're able to take. But the list isn't that short. You get a bunch of reasonably good stuff. And the only real restriction is that you can't play demon princes or epic characters other than Be'lakor. That's a real restriction. Like, Shalaxi is nuts. I would love to play her, but also I totally understand, right?
So it's like a Chaos Undivided detachment.
Yes. It is specifically supposed to be like a Be'lakor detachment. You don't have to play Be'lakor, but the idea is it's definitely Be'lakor. It has Heretic Astartes as well as demons. The Index detachment is supposed to be like demons undivided because you can mix them all and that feels good. But this is like a Be'lakor thing. It includes Space Marine stuff, which I think actually fixes a lot of problems. The fact that demons naturally have a problem with busting tanks, because it's like you need your monsters to get to melee, and while they're reasonably tough, they don't like have good armor saves and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to do sometimes. The fact that I can just take Havocs, a heavy weapon team with like 4 las cannons, and just start hurting tanks turn 1. There's a lot of reasons why this is really good. In addition to being able to just add these other units, each god or type of demon gets a extra ability. So Shadow Legion Khorne units are able to shoot and declare a charge and turn at which it advance. Shadow Legion Slaanesh units, enemies are not allowed to fire Overwatch at them ever. Shadow Legion Tzeentch units have -1 to hit against them. This is both shooting and melee. Pretty good. And then Shadow Legion Nurgle units get -1 to the wound if the opponent's strength is higher than that unit's toughness. Also pretty reasonable. Doesn't really help the monsters, but still pretty good. Then you have Undivided units. Undivided units, for starters, Chaos Space Marine units still get to use their Dark Pact ability, which comes from the CSM Codex, giving them like sustained hits or lethals or stuff like that. In addition, Be'lakor gets it. Be'lakor auto passes the Dark Pact leadership test, so he never hurts himself while doing it. And then all Heretic Astartes Shadow Legion Undivided units gain Deep Strike, just cause.
Oh, good.
There's a lot to this, and this is holy toolbox Batman. This is going to be kind of complicated to build the list and have a solid plan. And it's going to take practice to make sure you're doing it right. Also, the options are like infinite. This detachment has so much potential. I love this thing. Again, I don't play Chaos really. I play a bunch of Xenos and I play a bunch of Imperium. I don't play Chaos anymore. I used to. If I were playing Chaos, I don't care if I was a CSM player that splashed in demons or if I was a demon player that splashed in CSM. I would probably switch to this detachment just because even if I did absolutely terrible, I have so many options and I feel like I get to do anything and everything I want. The fact that the different abilities based upon the gods are so accurate to what Khorne being able to advance and charge. If I'm playing a Khorne unit, that's exactly what I want. There isn't any other ability I would want. That's perfect. Like the Tzeentch having -1 to hit all the time. I absolutely love this. Love this detachment. I think this is crazy good. Looking at the enhancements, I don't have the points in front of me because, again, they didn't attach the point values to the actual pictures that they put up or the document. But the abilities as they're worded, pretty solid. I'm happy with them as long as they're not crazy overcosted, which let's assume they are because most of the indexed ones are, or excuse me, most of the Grotmas Detachment ones were. I still think they're pretty solid. Can't really complain. There's only one stratagem that costs 2 CP. Also, the stratagems really aren't that bad. They're fairly not restrictive because it's just Shadow Legion unit. It's not like Shadow Legion Khorne, Shadow Legion Tzeentch. So I think these are pretty non-restrictive. Happy with the stratagems. So I think this is great. I would absolutely play the crap out of this. I think this is awesome. Now, I'm going to say there's one giant drawback here, and this is unconfirmed. I could absolutely be wrong. We haven't gotten anything official, but this detachment is really weird and out of place. The document that they put out for this detachment, they attach to the index. The Grotmas detachment isn't attached to the index. All the Grotmas detachments aren't attached to the index. The other March detachments aren't attached to their codexes technically. They are just free-floating detachments that you get to use. What does this mean? I'm interpreting this as when the demons get their codex and the index detachment becomes outdated because you have your codex, this bonus detachment is also going to become outdated. Does this mean that they're going to like include this or update it or whatever? Maybe. Do they put this out as its own standalone document after you get your codex? Maybe. But also the fact that they decided out of nowhere, this is the only one they were going to attach to an index. I don't understand. It has to mean something, I feel like. Otherwise, why would they put in the extra effort to do it this way? And the only thing I can interpret is that we're going to lose this when we get our coding.
It's kind of strange, the index attachment thing they're doing.
No clue. Like I said, it's the only thing I can interpret, and I may totally turn out to be wrong. Honestly, I hope I do. This detachment looks awesome, but for the time being, that's all I can interpret. So that kind of stinks.
It's all right.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
You don't even. None of us play them, so it's fine.
You're right.
You're right, but also like we want nice things for everybody, right? Like in a perfect world, all factions are balanced so that you have competitive options and casual options, and like we have access to all the cool things. But
well,
whatever.
I mean, I want nice things for everybody, but your Space Wolf detachment wasn't great.
Don't I know it?
We're back on it.
That. All right. Well, I think that completes our chaos. We could have some arguments about Drukhari, but we won't. So moving on to Xenos. Why don't we just kick it off with Orcs?
Which one?
Ooh, hold on.
Let's.
In lieu of a mid break, we're just gonna take a breather here.
Sounds good.
And we're gonna talk about we're gonna do this mid break impromptu. All right, we're gonna talk about our Patreon because Sky's here with us now and he gets the full effect. So if you want to become a patron of Gopher's Workshop, you can head on over to patreon.com/Gopher's Workshop and jump on. We've got different memberships at different levels, ranging from $5 all up to the ridiculous number of $250. There is no reason why you need to do that. But if you do,
I'm telling you now, don't do it. If you do it, you're doing it to spite me. Don't do it. We appreciate it. We love you guys. That's not necessary.
So don't do it. Chris says don't do it.
I see. The problem is I said that trying to be nice, and now there's going to be like one guy. And he's like, oh, he told me not to. Now I have to.
That's exactly what happens every time.
The problem is it's going to be me.
You're going to patronize yourself?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where my kids came from.
I'm done with
Patronize us. I got kids.
So anyway, the main tier that like we appreciate everything that you guys do, regardless of the tier.
Yes.
The main tier that we want to suggest to people is kind of in the middle. And that tier, in addition to a bunch of cool benefits, getting early access to videos, things like that, you can also submit a list a month, and I will review it. As a part of that review, I'm going to, give you some suggestions. Also, maybe a pat on the back. Try to help you do what you want to do. It's not about necessarily making the most competitive list. If that's what you want to do, we totally can. But also, it's about helping you do what you want to do. Anything that you want to do, we can probably make competitive. Is it going to be a little harder? Do we have to put in a little more work? Absolutely. But there's nothing that you want to do that we can't make work for you and your group of friends and your meta, that sort of thing. I'm here to help. So if you do that tier, then once a month you can shoot me over a list and I'll review it for you.
That's
Go ahead.
I was saying, and that's the guardsman tier. Just to let everybody know, that's the $30 guardsman tier.
Correct. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of cool stuff. You get to vote on some of the topics that we review, as well as kind of what we prioritize, because in the big, vast universe that is 40K, got a lot to cover, and there ain't no way we're getting to it all, at least not anytime soon. So if there's a thing you want to, hear us talk about or help with, not only could it be your list, but also you get to vote for some of those topics and help us get to the thing that your pressing questions before others.
Absolutely. And on that note, we also have a sponsor. It's us. We're our own sponsor.
We did it. So Gopher Games,
yes,
is the company, the guys, and we have a bunch of stuff. We have on our website, gophermafia.com. We have a whole bunch of game systems, including 40K and GW products across the board, whether it's paint, hobby supplies, Horse Heresy, etc. And all GW stuff is 15% off all the time, including pre-orders. So feel free to stop by and check us out. You can order some stuff. We ship anywhere in the US. We'll totally take care of you. In addition, if you're not, you got plenty of 40K stuff and you want to support your local, we're happy that you're doing that. Please keep doing that. We have plenty of other stuff that you can peruse as well.
So yeah, there's our mid-break. Impromptu, doodle-doo, back to Xenos.
Xeno time.
For the orcs, why don't we cover the Grotmas Detachment first, since that's been out a little longer, and then we'll
Grotmas time?
To the March one.
Okay, so you're talking about the Tactical Brigade.
Yes, spelt only correctly.
The second word is spelled right, I think.
Yes, it is.
So the detachment rule is listener, which is one word. Once per battle round in your command phase after being set up on the battlefield in your movement phase, each boss Snickrot or mech and war boss model in your army can issue tactics abilities. They're basically guard orders. To do so, select one of the abilities and select one friendly orc unit within 6 inches of that model to issue them to them. That model must take a leadership test. If it's failed, the selection unit suffers 1 mortal wound until the start of your next command phase. The selection unit is affected by until the start of your next command phase, it's affected by that tactic. So basically, until you do orders again, it has that effect on it.
Mm-hmm.
A unit cannot have tactics issued to it in this way more than once per battle round. Tactics abilities cannot be issued to battle-shocked units. And if a unit affected by tactics becomes battle-shocked, all tactics cease to affect the unit while it is battle-shocked. The 4 options of tactics we have are pretty good. Get stuck in is reroll charge rolls. Get on with it is add 1 to the strength and melee weapons equipped by models in the unit. Sneaky stalkin' is only for infantry and mounted models, but they get the stealth ability, and every time a range attack targets this unit, those models have the benefits of cover. And then shoot a drills is each time an infantry or mounted model in this unit makes a range attack, add 1 to the hit roll. And as a little bonus, Storm Boys become battle line for this attachment. I really like this attachment. It got slightly nerfed, and it looks like the nerf is in this updated one I'm looking at.
Yes, they updated on the Warhammer community. So if you look it up yourself, it will be updated.
As far as I understand, there used to be the ability to issue 2 orders, and only if you issued the second order to the same unit, then you would take a battle shock test and maybe take D3 mortal wounds. Now you only take exactly 1 mortal wound, but you can only do 1 order to a unit. It's whatever. A lot of these abilities don't make a whole lot of sense to stack, because some are for shooting, some are for charging, some are for fighting. They can be, but you don't need it. Strength of melee weapons being buffed by only by itself, you're usually strength higher than what you need for most orc fighting.
At least during the WoW, that's definitely.
Yeah, and then Sneaky Stalking is okay, getting stealth and cover is really cool. In the turn, you don't think you're going to make it to fighting. So if you want to stall, you want to try to pump up your resiliency a little bit. It was really good for that. And that's honestly my favorite part about it, is just playing a ton of infantry, giving them stealth and cover all the time, and then popping out with shoot-a-drills on my good shooting units with +1 to hit. Basically, that's it. I've run it as a shooting list with tank busters and ludas and stuff, mostly the new tank busters. And it's done me really well. There is some very silly stuff you can do. They kind of took some away, but you can add a war boss to commandos unit now, and they can infiltrate, which is good for setting up early game or denying the midfield. There's other things that kind of buff shooting, but that's kind of it. There's one stratagem that I think is very notable out of all of them. The rest are kind of copies of more generic stratagems in other detachments for orcs. The coolest one is, well, there's 2. The tactical retreat is cool because after a unit falls back from you, you get to make a move. Oh, no, that's not right. What is it? On to the next? Yeah, after an enemy unit falls back, 1 orc unit from your army that was engaged before the enemy unit fell back, they get to make an normal move of 6 inches. Especially when people are trying to fall back and shoot at you, you can just get away. Especially when you have first floor line of sight blocking and your infantry. You can totally sneak away with your tiny little tank busting unit. That one has been really good. And 6 inches doesn't sound like a lot, but if you set up the movement shenanigans just right, it can be super powerful. The other one is you can add one to your OC in the command phase to a certain unit. This is hilarious on Grots, because a full min Grot unit is 20 Grots and 2 Runthers, so it's 42 OC base, and then you pump that up to 63. It's hilarious.
Pretty good. A couple of things I noticed on this. I really like this, and I talked about this on some other detachments, but this is kind of a shooting-oriented detachment, but it still has an appropriate amount of melee support. So I think it's really balanced that way. The enhancements are great, but I think the thing about this detachment compared to the others, because again, you had to compare them to what else you have access to. I think this could be one of the best detachments, but it kind of depends on the meta. There's orc shooting is not the best, right? But you can definitely make it better. But the orc shooting is still kind of specific to, well, it's good against this type of unit or this type of list, not necessarily all of the list. So it could be the best. I would argue it's definitely up there competitively, but this one's kind of a little more meta dependent. The enhancements I think overall are crazy good. I love them, but
Well, what's kind of cool is some of the heavy units are units with heavy weapons. Where they would get a buff by not moving, you could still give them the same buff with an order.
Mm-hmm.
So like now your Ludas can move around. It's not a big deal. There's, I find this to be sort of a detachment for lots of infantry units and being a little cagey with the terrain and the infantry. It can be super fun, but if you want to splash other units in, because the Orc Codex has a lot of unit variety, it gets a little more difficult because you're not going to really be buffing your vehicles and other stuff like at all. It's an infantry focused sneak around detachment.
So on that note, I was actually thinking about it too. Because I was thinking about this the other day. What I think is kind of the secretly most impressive thing is the Storm Boys becoming battle line. I mean, when I first read this, right, because it first came out, the idea is like, no, but I could take like 6 units of Storm Boys. Well, that seems cool. But I don't know that that's the best part. Like, there's still a real amount of points. I don't know that I want to spam 6 units. Like, but what's impressive is them gaining the keyword, even if I'm still only taking 3 or less units. The fact that, like, there's so many tournament missions that have the mission rule of, like, a battle line can advance an action, or battle line can, you know, still do an action while engaged. Them gaining this keyword so that I'm already jump infantry, right? I can just, but the mission I know ahead of time before I deploy is I can advance an action. Well, now I don't need to put as many into Deep Strike because I could just turn 1, advance, do an action, and I terraform or whatever it is, right? I think that's surprisingly good for how, like, a single sentence changes so much.
Well, and the Storm Boys were already like basically a scoring unit because they were 65 points for a 5-man with Deep Strike. So small footprint, go grab points. Their move is 12. Like it does everything you need it to do. They're fragile, but they score points.
Yep.
This just doubled down on their ability to score points. Yeah, I think you could bring MSU of as many as you feel like suits your fancy and just score all the points you can. You leave like a couple on Deep Strike. You could even put a couple on the table still. There's an uppy downy for them for 1 CP. So like you have all the movement flexibility you want, but only for infantry.
Which, as an Orc player, isn't really so bad. Like, you have a lot of infantry, and they're all your bread and butter. Like, they're pretty good.
I mean, kind of, because they die so fast, it can feel kind of bad. You have to be a little careful. But, like, you got toughness, but you don't have saves. And you're not playing the Bully Boys attachment, which I still argue is really good. So you're definitely only getting 1 WA.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing you got to be careful about now is the command phase declared WA change means that if your opponent goes first, you don't have a WA, so you got to deploy KG in case your opponent's going first. Because you have no protection. And you can't issue orders either, because that's in the command phase.
Mm-hmm. But that is kind of an upside, right? Like, being able to hand out stealth to the units that you know are going to be overexposed is a really nice, like, it's not a WA. It's definitely not as good as a WA. But it's nice enough to, like, no, but I can try to keep them alive a little bit longer, like 1 more turn maybe.
Oh yeah, there are definitely turns playing this attachment where you're like, okay, I just want to try to stand on this circle and score some points, so I'm just going to give them stealth and cover and hope they don't get completely destroyed. Anyway, I would say that this attachment is fairly competitive. I find that it's actually really situational, because if you're doing first floor line of sight blocking, or if you're not doing first floor line of sight blocking, which is kind of up to the TO of whatever event you're attending, makes a giant difference to how I would build a list for this attachment. Because you have a lot of infantry that want to pop through the wall and shoot stuff, or pop behind the wall and not get shot.
All right. Let's.
How do you tell me you're an orc player without telling me you're an orc player?
What?
I don't know. What?
I mean, I said it with a question mark instead of an exclamation point, but I'm not an orc player, so.
Anyway, next list.
Okay, so now we should jump over to the other orc detachment that came out here in March. Guy.
The Marchmas detachment.
Yes.
Okay, so for
Orcs
March,
This is a thing.
we
now.
got more DACA. So that's literally the name of the detachment. It's a DACA detachment. It's pretty straightforward. All the orc infantry and orc walker models in your army have sustained hits too.
For ranged
For ranged weapons. Yeah, I just did a double take. I'm like, it says ranged weapons, okay? And it's during your shooting phase, so it's not all the time. But while the WA is active for your army, ranged weapons equipped by orcs infantry and orcs walker models from your army have the assault ability. So you can still advance and shoot and charge.
Very good.
On the WA turn.
Yes. Because the WA gives the charge naturally.
There's a lot that you could do with this. I see this as just a straight up better than the other detachment. Instead of like sliding into war bosses and mechs, now it's infantry and walkers. The other one had infantry too, whatever. But I'm going to see a lot of people probably switch their lists into this because the output is just so good.
Like, there's some tricks that the old one had that were like more defensive that are probably better in some scenarios, but you're right. This one is way more streamlined. It's more firepower, more like damage output, and they kind of gave up on most of the defense side of things.
Also, I don't think we need to talk about much other than the one stratagem that is absolutely bonkers.
Yes.
So you call that DACA? So for 1 CP, you're in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has shot. One orc unit from your army that had one or more of its models destroyed as a result of the attacking unit's attacks. You can shoot as if it were your shooting phase, but you must only target the enemy unit when doing so, and can only do so if the enemy unit is an eligible target. So basically, did you just shoot at me? Did you kill at least one guy? I'm going to shoot back at ballistic skill right now.
It's very good. First off, it's only 1 CP. If there was like a strat out of all of these detachments, like every one that's powerful enough to be worth 2 CP, I kind of think it's this one. But
I'm just saying, I move my flash kit to the midfield. I shoot you. You move to the midfield. I overwatch. You shoot at me. I overwatch you again.
But better.
Full
ballistics.
Yeah, because full ballistics. You're right.
So here's the real thing, right? And I mentioned this before when we were talking about this, but the whole idea of the stratagems, the reason it's 1 CP, the reason it seems arguably reasonable is because orcs have t-shirt saves. So if they shoot at you, they have to kill a model. Okay, well, that's really easy. But if they shoot at you and they kill, let's say, half or more of your unit, well, now this stratagem doesn't feel very powerful because, like, does 2 lutas really matter? But also, the reason it's crazy is because, especially since orcs just fall over to everything, your opponent's probably splitting up attacks, right? Like, they've got a door, let's say, and they're like, the multi-meltas are going into the battle wagon, and then the main gun is going to go into the, like, mega knobs, and then I'm going to take this stubber that's on top. I guess I'll put it over into those like tank bustas. Yeah. Well, you killed 1 tank busta. Why? Because it's not that hard to do. But also, you shot something that almost didn't matter at me in response, but tank bustas kill half of the door. If not all of it, right? Like, it's like no split firing becomes the problem.
Yeah, you have to overkill it.
Yeah. And if they do that, right? Like if they're like, nope, I'm going to take all my intercessors and I get a bonus for only shooting at one thing. you know what? They probably kill enough flash gits that you don't want to use this strat. You're right. But the minute that, again, you got like a piddly gun that just splits off to the side of like, all my guns are going to shoot at this other thing, but the only thing in range of that is like my pistol because he can't see around the wall or something.
Yeah.
And I really want to shoot at something else. Don't shoot the pistol. It's just a mistake at this point because you shoot the pistol, you kill like a flash git, and now the whole flash git unit wipes your like infantry unit out. Oh
yeah,
no.
I really expect it to get like fact pretty quick to 2 CP. But we'll see what happens.
I think so too.
The last one on this that's notable is there's a 1 CP pick an orc unit in the command phase, and now WA's active for that unit. We're going to see that on war bosses because you're just going to pump CP into a war boss. They have like the 9 attacks instead of the 4 or whatever.
Yep, very good.
But I mean, for 1 CP, it's situational. But like if I'm in a fight with another character, totally good. I think this one lacks all the mobility shenanigans that I think the competitive play wants to say for scoring points, wanting to have.
Sure.
But it has the killing potential, which might just fix all your problems.
Yeah, and for orcs,
that's my take on it.
For orcs, that's kind of real, right? Because they fall over to any sort of clapback. So if the answer is, between like stealth from the 1 detachment or, whatever other shenanigans we can have by double wawing to try to make us more durable, if that's still not enough, well, what if we just kill more stuff? If you have less dice, that means I'm more durable because you can't, you don't have enough dice to kill as many models. That might be the answer here. I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but it's kind of the direction this is trying to go, and I think it might be right. The one other thing I want to point out is one of the enhancements is just give the model and his unit +1 to hit on ranged attacks. It's like it's only 1 unit and it's going to cost you points, but also if there was like a unit you were putting in the list that you wanted to target with the other detachment with orders for the +1 to hit, you still get it. I like this detachment, but also it's kind of hard to argue you're losing something when you're switching from Grotmas to this one. You are losing some stuff, but the stuff you're losing is not output, that's for sure. And it's not really defensive because, again, if you just kill more models, they have less dice and that's kind of equally defensive.
Yeah, 100%.
The only thing you're losing is some mobility.
And it's still infantry. And it's weird because it also hits walkers.
Yep. Which I'm glad for, but also a little odd.
But not buggies. Not buggies. All right, what's the next one?
All right. So next one, we're going to jump over to Tau. So for the Grotmas one for Tau, it was Auxiliary Cadre. So this was Kroot and Vespid Stingwing units gain the following abilities: targeting, triangulation, aura. While an enemy unit is within 9 inches and visible of these units, each time a ranged attack from a friendly Tau model, except for Kroot, Vespid, and Titanic models that target that enemy that's within 9, improve the AP by 1. So basically, they targeting array an extra AP for other units. The Kroot and Vespid do. Also, Tau Empire units, excluding Kroot and Vespid units, gain the following ability. While friendly Kroot and Vespid Stingwings are wholly within 6 inches and visible to the friendly Tau unit, that Kroot and Vespid unit can only be selected as the target of ranged attacks if the attacking model is within 18 inches. So they have a bad lone-op aura for Kroot and Vespids. This is kind of crazy. So I'm not saying it's super good. You really need to play this, forget all the other detachments, but this is another good example of high skill cap equals high payout. I think it's super strong. It is, as much as it is super strong, it is very reliant on this give and take mechanic of I need these types of units to buff the other types of units. and then the other units buff these units, but only like in a very distinct way, it's not going to be easy to play. I don't think this is the best detachment, mostly because of how hard it is going to be to play. But it's very good. The bonus AP, I think, is huge. In most games, I would argue bonus AP is almost more important than like bonus damage or even bonus shots. AP is huge in this edition. That being said, I definitely think the enhancements are like good. They're like slightly above average. They're not crazy, especially because of their points, but it's like pretty reasonable. This is going to be all positioning focused. Again, super hard to do. Requires a ton of finesse, knowing when to overextend the Vespids because they'll die immediately after, when to let the Kroot go out and get the buff knowing that they're going to die. And it's going to be an extremely unforgiving playstyle. It's also going to have a few bad matchups, which everything should. That's not necessarily a negative. But, for example, because the Kroot have to get so close in order to do their job, you can protect them when they're far away. But the minute that turn where you need to send the Kroot out in order to get the buff because you decide you need to kill a thing, if your opponent's playing a real amount of flamers, whether that's ball predators or Infernus guys with salamanders, things like that, you're going to have a really rough match because the Kroot are going to come out, they're going to overwatch, will wipe out the Kroot, and then the go turn that you wanted is not going to work. That's not to say that it is like you shouldn't play this. Again, I think it's extremely good, but it's going to have some weird matchups and it's going to be very hard to position.
Yeah, I see a lot of these wombo combo, like thematic combining of units, cross buffing.
And I'm on board for it. I think it's like you said, it's really thematic. It's really flavorful. And if you're a good competitive player who's put a bunch of time into the game, they can be very powerful. Most of them, I would argue, have been very powerful that do this multi-type unit back and forth. But the problem is because you have to like balance the list to have multiple types of units, and then you have to like overextend one of them usually to, help the other. None of them are easy to play, I think. Okay, so Tau also got a second detachment that came out in March. This one is the Experimental Prototype Cadre. Their detachment rule is pretty straightforward. We're going to add 6 inches to range characteristic of range weapons, period. That's the whole thing. Everything is just 6 inches longer. If we're only looking at the detachment rule,
I'm sorry, just the way
it's
you
pretty
said
bad. Yeah, it's not great. It doesn't do enough. The fact that it adds range is good, but also knowing that Tau already have some pretty good ranged weapons. Like they have anything that would be 24 inches in any other faction is 30 already in this faction. Like they already have a ton of not really having range problems. The thing this does, if nothing else, is most of their rapid fire weapons get like an extra 3 inches to the rapid fire. I don't know if that's worth it, but sure. Looking at the enhancements. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So you're saying the range doesn't do enough? That sounds a
Correct.
lot like a certain Chaos God.
It doesn't. Like,
No, it does. It sounds like you're disappointed X.
well, what can I say? It's the Tau. I have never been super into Tau. I've totally played Tau before, but also like
the Slanesh Tau crossover is coming. Just wait. They'll get us in April.
The enhancements arguably aren't bad. Some of them make no sense, but also relatively they're not bad. Again, because it's a March detachment, I don't have the points in front of me. So maybe these are all way cheaper than I thought, and I don't hate them. But also, we've looked at a lot of detachments now. Almost every detachment has like a 30-point enhancement. I don't have high hope. The only saving grace is I think their stratagems are surprisingly strong. Everything costs 1 CP, already a great start. They have the ability to regen wounds on battle suits. They have the ability to gain a bunch of keywords. I like the stratagems. I think the stratagems are surprisingly strong. I don't think it makes up for arguably not having a detachment rule at all, but there are people that have played Tau far more recently than I have, so maybe I'm wrong on that. But compared to every detachment we've looked at, including knowing what some of the other Tau detachments are, I don't particularly like this one. That being said, it does one thing well that isn't actually on this sheet. Most of the Tau detachments are strongly encouraging you to take these units and get close. If you're within half range, do a thing. If you're within 9 inches, get a bonus. If you're within 6 inches, get an extra bonus. There's a whole bunch of the detachments that encourage you to get really close. And this faction is notoriously bad at melee. So when you get close, you have to basically kill it, and it has to also be isolated, or you're getting charged later, and it's bad for you. This is probably the best detachment to learn Tau on, because it encourages you to stay farther away. It's probably good for learning. After you learn how to play Tau correctly and really kind of have a good understanding of them, then you probably switch over to a more competitive detachment. But
yeah, because with Tau, it's just there's a finesse to the distance you want to keep.
Absolutely.
You can't just say, I'm going to backline the whole game either.
Correct.
Because you do have to score points somehow.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it is doable.
Okay.
All right. So moving on. Now we'll go to the old Eldari, or Craft World Eldar, for those who remember that name.
I call them Atlanteans now.
I mean, they got the ears. So this detachment is another one that's interesting because it was put out in a weird gap. When this came out in December, we were still on indexes. And when it came out, again, just like Guard, everybody was relatively happy. It wasn't super impressive, but it wasn't bad. And compared to what we were used to, this was pretty solid. Also, the core faction mechanic at the time was still fate dice. That's a big thing here. The rule for this detachment is ranged weapons equipped by Eldari vehicles have the assault ability, and you can re-roll advance rolls for vehicles with the fly keyword. Eldari vehicles with the fly keyword, I should clarify, because the Codex now has Harlequins and some other stuff. So when this first came out, we had fate dice. And also, honestly, like every data sheet was almost more expensive. So the giving these tanks these bonus abilities really made a lot of sense. It was pretty solid. Everyone's pretty happy. Now the Codex has come out. Well, now the faction rule is battle focus tokens, which are mobility tricks on Eldari vehicles, which are already pretty fast. Matter of fact, Eldari is like the fastest faction in the whole game. And then on top of that, they have mobility tricks to go faster and reactionary move and all sorts of other stuff. Giving my vehicle not what I want. So I think this is pretty rough now. Also, it's hilarious the fact that they had to say Eldari vehicles with fly. All they basically said is, we don't like war walkers, which is also funny because they just re-released the kit.
Well, unfortunately, they don't want to sell them. I mean, come on.
Sure. We just redid the whole kit, but also don't buy them. Unfortunately, I'm going to actually have to argue that this detachment is like top 3 for Eldar right now. And it's objectively like non-synergistic, not great. As I've mentioned in the previous video on our YouTubes, I don't think they're in a great spot. It's not that they're bad, it's that they're kind of too soft and they are too expensive to be as soft as they are. So playing vehicles helps you toughness skew a little bit. It also makes it to where you're kind of getting only the good weapons. You don't have any chaff weapons, which is going to cause some matchup issues against some more horde style armies. But while this is definitely not the best detachment you have access to, Eldari, I think in general, you're in kind of a rough spot. So this detachment, while it used to feel way better, definitely doesn't now. The enhancements are actually pretty good. They're still a little on the costly side, but that's kind of what we expect from Grotmas Detachments. The strats, I think, are really good, but again, almost all of them say vehicles with fly keywords, so we extra hate Warwalkers for no reason. Now that the Codex is out, I would not probably play this detachment anymore. Again, it's still probably top 3, but that's only because some of the other detachments encourage you to take units that are way too overcosted. But I wouldn't actually play it.
So what I'm hearing you say again is Chaos got favored again?
I mean, so yes, but like at this point, they don't even like, if we're going to favor Chaos, it almost makes sense to favor Eldar because they created a quarter of the Chaos gods. Like they should be like getting gifts from Slaanesh adjacent, but also it's in a super weird spot because if we would have had this discussion, let's say a month ago or even 2 months ago, I would have told you this is really solid. Like you should play this. It's, you know, it skews towards vehicles, so it's not for everybody. It depends on what you're trying to do and what your meta is, but like it's super playable. Now it's only playable because the points are so off. Like I want to say it's unplayable, don't do it, but it's like now the points are bad. That's the only reason this is good. And there's a solid argument, right? Because they could do a points update, and when they do, they could end up making tanks cheaper, and this could become more viable again for the sole purpose of the strats are good. And yeah, I don't need assault on anything. I don't know why, but the strats are good enough that if tanks are cheap enough, I could just toughness spam and have some sweet strats. But after reading the Codex, there are so many good detachments in there that are just mispointed that by the time they fix the points, I can't imagine this is going to come back around to being the thing. I think there's too many other good detachments that are just mispointed that you'll be able to play one or the other. Okay, moving on to the Drukhari, or Dark Eldar, as
the Duck Boys. They're Duck Boys.
Space Raiders. So it's the Reaper's Wager. This is actually another like give and take 2 different keyword unit detachment. So before we even know what it does, we already know that it's like high skill cap. It's going to be difficult to play. It's about positioning, especially because we're talking about Dark Eldar and the other ones, Harlequins. They're all going to be fairly low toughness. Like it is going to be all about positioning. And if you overextend in the wrong way, super punished. That being said, again, super flavorful. At the start of the battle round, Drukhari units from your army or at the start of the battle, Drukhari units from your army are winning the wager. Each time a Drukhari unit from your army destroys an enemy unit, Drukhari units from in your army are winning the wager. Same goes for Harlequins. Each time a Harlequin unit destroys an enemy unit, they count as winning the wager. And you go back and forth. Only one side can be winning the wager at any given time. So then each time Harlequins or Drukhari models from your army are losing the wager, they get to re-roll hit rolls of 1 and wound rolls of 1. So basically whoever's behind tries extra hard to get ahead. So this, if you're like absolutely a pro player that can just mind math the world, this is a crazy powerful thing. Because what if I said, all of your stuff has rerolls to hit and wound of 1 all the time for no reason against every target. I don't care if they're a vehicle or if they're an infantry or whatever. Like, they got rid of all the restrictions and then forced you to play this wager game of going back and forth. But the only way that works is if you can target priority the correct way in the correct order against the correct target. And you, like, in your head before you even roll, math out how much it's going to take to deal with that issue. If you can do all that, okay, this Harlequin's unit is losing. I'm going to shoot. I'm going to kill that tank. All right, now I'm going to switch over to Jakari unit. It's going to kill the thing that, like, hopped out of that transport, and I'm going to kill it. And now that Harlequin's losing again, I'm going to shoot this other thing. It's like, this could be incredibly powerful, but also it's so hard to play.
You have to perfectly pass the ball back and forth.
Correct. And the minute someone says Armor of Contempt, or, you know, I blank that wound from the Dark Lance or whatever, the minute your math doesn't work out appropriately, the whole rest of your turn, the back and forth order, is probably messed up. And it's not that you can't recover from that, but you're definitely going to be like, gosh, that wasn't my plan. The 1 CP strat or the once per game ability could really cause problems for your whole turn.
I think it's cool. It's like a Legolas and Gimli detachment where they have the competing kill count.
Yep. Again, it's super flavorful. It's super fun. Like, if I was playing casual games in like a Escalation League or a Crusade or something like that, I would probably love this. This sounds awesome. But it's like, from the tournament scene, the competitive side, ooh, this is going to be rough. I'm sure there's someone who's like spent their whole 40K career playing like Eldar, specifically Drakari, and they've got it down. They could totally make it work.
They can call their shots.
Yeah, but I've played a fair amount of Eldar, not so much Drakari. But even with that being said, if this was like Eldar and Harlequins, I still don't know that I'd feel comfortable doing this. This seems very difficult. I like the enhancements and the strats. I think they're both really good. There's a reactionary move strat that's 2 CP. I have no clue why. It's definitely not that good. I'm not sure what else to say about it other than if you're playing this casually, you're going to have a blast. If you're playing this competitively, boy, are you going to have a rough time.
Okay.
All right. On to the Buggy Boys, the old Tyranids. So this is, I'm going to say, a flavorful detachment. And it's not because it has anything to do with Tyranids. It is a flavorful detachment because when this came out, shortly before this, there was the video game that came out, Space Marine 2.
Yes.
I joke you not, when this came out, I read it and I said, kind of like with Death Guard, right? Where I said the rules writers walked up to a Death Guard player and they said, what do you want? They gave you exactly what you want. They basically walked up to someone who was like never played 40K, but they've played Space Marine 2. And they're like, hey, you know those Tyranid things? Like, oh yeah, that game's super sweet. Like, all right, if you had to make a detachment around that, what would you do? And this is what they got. Like, super flavorful, but also it's like flavored to the video game, not really to like the tabletop.
Listen, I'm not mad about that.
Because this was also like I don't remember now, like the 3rd detachment we got or something in December, we had no idea what we were looking forward to. So when I read this, I thought it was great. Anyway, so the detachment says Tyranid warriors and winged Tyranid prime units in your army have a 5-up invul all the time. Decent. In addition, Tyranid warriors with or without ranged weapons now count as battle line, and Tyranid warrior models also have an OC characteristic of 3. Normally they have 2. Okay, not unreasonable, but the short answer here is you are absolutely spamming how many warriors can I play. That's like the only thing, right? Tyranid wing primes can go in a a thing or two other than Tyranid Warriors, but the short answer is you're still basically spamming Warriors as hard as you can. I absolutely think that competitively, this detachment is kind of garbo. And it's not even because like the stratagems or the enhancements are bad. However, Warriors aren't great. Giving them a 5-up Binvol makes them significantly better. No argument. But they weren't bad, or they weren't quite good enough, even with that. Before this detachment, I have seen Warriors played, I have seen them do well, but almost every time it had to do with like an enhancement. I'm going to take Warriors with this Prime, I'm going to put an enhancement on the Prime, and this one unit is going to look kind of impressive, but only if it makes the charge. Then the melee weapons like mulch anything. Okay, well, that's pretty good. But also, like, you needed that enhancement. That was what made like push the efficiency up. I don't think this is going to be competitively quite good. It has the opportunity to be slightly impressive if you know like what Adepticon's coming up. For example, if you know that I'm going to play this event and they put the missions up ahead of time, and it turns out every like mission that we're playing that day has stalwart mission rule or swift action to where like battle line gets to do a bunch of extra actions just cause. There's an argument this list is really good if you tailor it for that. The Warriors are one of the better, mostly tougher, but also one of the better battle line units in the game. I won't argue that, especially after they gain the 5-up Binvol. But across like the whole, if you don't have those like mission rules, they still seem a little too expensive and not quite doing enough to make this detachment worth it. Enhancements are really good. I have no complaints. They're, again, a little on the spendy side, but we're not surprised by that because it's Grotmas. Stratagems, they don't have any 2 CP ones, so they're, again, even if I don't like them, at least appropriately costed. I don't hate this detachment. I'm not saying it's bad. As a matter of fact, I would argue the Codex has one that's worse than this. However, there's like at least 3 in the Codex that I would argue are better than this. And I'm not sure that this like changes my mind on it. So there's that. Moving on to the Gene Stealer cults. Final day.
Yeah, the Kickstarter's closing out. Place your eBay bids. It's the final day.
For
what? For
what?
those who don't, the Tyranids are coming. The Amazon packages full of little biovores are arriving. And we're about to turn your whole cult into tasty, tasty Tyranid soup.
Rose.
Probably some gumbo. I mean, they gotta reconstitute the. They gotta make you into goop so they can 3D print out more warriors. Anyway, this is a fun wombo combo, like we were kind of talking about earlier. The idea is Gene Stealer cults units can get ganked and give health to Tyranid units and give them a buff to their hit roll. At length, the detachment rule is psionic parasitism. At the end of the movement phase, for each Tyranid synapse unit from your army, you can select one friendly Gene Stealer cults unit, excluding Gene Stealers and Patriarch units, and one friendly Tyranids unit within 9 inches of and visible to that synapse unit. If you do, that Gene Stealer cults unit from your army suffers D3 plus 1 mortal wounds, and one model in the selected Tyranids unit regains up to that many lost wounds until the start of your next movement phase. And until the start of the next movement phase, each time a model in the selected Tyranids unit makes an attack, you add 1 to the hit roll. So, get your psychic brains eaten by giant space monsters so they can have more health.
Gross.
And hit better.
It's
Just a little snack.
Little Scooby snacks. So
Second part.
Tyranids, units from the army, have the following ability, which is Catalyst, which is an aura. While an enemy unit is within 6 inches of this unit, each time a friendly Genestealer Cults unit makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, add 1 to the hit roll. So if your Genestealer Cults guys are shooting at stuff that's close to your Tyranids, they get a little buff too. They got to protect Daddy Hive Mind or whatever.
Pretty much.
And basically, the detachment splits it up specifically about how many Tyranids you can bring. So for Strike Force, which is 2,000 points, you can bring 1,000 points of Tyranids. So basically half.
But it's slightly more restrictive than that, because when it comes to the Tyranid units, you can only bring the Vanguard Invader units, which is a keyword that a handful of Tyranids have. Matter of fact,
Yes.
11 different units have that keyword. Keep in mind, this is after FAQs have added this keyword to several data sheets.
Yeah. So the detachment rule pretty much speaks for the whole thing. Everything is just kind of in support of that. The one that I find funny that I want to abuse, the Synaptic Augur, which lets the Tyranid unit that heals double how many wounds it regenerates. Because I want to make like basically a Tyranid Great Unclean one. But we can't throw it on the Norn Emissary, so we have to settle for a Tyrant. It's fine. It's good. It becomes a little more situational and less like a Great Unclean one then, but it's good. I also think that being able to take units from both codices helps you flesh certain things out. There is some really interesting shooting and shenanigans in the Genestealer Cults units. Being able to run something like Aberrance alongside a bunch of other deep striking infiltratey Tyranids sounds pretty ridiculous and fun, if you ask me. That's pretty much my take on it. I think it's a fun attachment. I think it's actually good. I don't think it overrides the best Genestealer Cult attachment in the Codex, but
I agree.
If you're gonna play these units together, you might as well be playing this.
Yeah. Obviously, there's the one wombo combo that is, take a big Hive Tyrant or, Moloch or Trigon or something and like try to make it unkillable by constantly healing it. That's not bad. But I think the real tech to this is basically let's say I'm a GSC player and I just feel like I'm missing certain things. Well, there's a short list amongst Vanguard that shows up a lot of like, but are you missing Fights First or Infiltrate or Precision or Deep Strike? Those 4 keywords show up at least once, if not many times, on like every Vanguard datasheet. So if you just want like Infiltrate, Fights First, and Precision on the same model, not just add a Death Leaper, because you can do that. Like, it's
the Fights First. The Fights First is a big one for Genestealer Cults because they don't really have it outside of a character that you probably don't want to attach to any of the units that would fight first because they're not fighty. So, like, what's the point?
Yep, absolutely. And the surprisingly, the enhancements are kind of reasonably costed for this one, so great for that. Enhancements are also pretty good, as you said. The one that like doubles the amount of healing, as long as the Hive Tyrant can live through to the next turn. Basically, you can maybe not full health him, but you can get back to like well above half health. So again, I think this could be really good, but it's that same high skill cap of trying to not overextend and make it all work together. I actually like this detachment. You're right. It's definitely not the best GSC detachment, but the fact that I can just fix problems that I feel like I'm having in my meta, because if, let's say my meta has a bunch of infiltrators and I'm not doing that because I only have like Scout or whatever in my list. to so easily splash in enough infiltrating that my opponent's not allowed to anymore. Pretty good.
Yeah, you splash in some scouting Scooby snacks.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's great.
You and those damn Scooby snacks.
Middling kids. All right, so we've only got a couple left here. I know this has already been another long episode.
Go.
We'll get through it.
We promise they're not all going to be like this. They're all very consumable.
Votan have a detachment called Hearthband. The Votan models in your army, when making attacks, so could be melee or shooting, excluding blast weapons, if they target the closest enemy unit or an enemy unit that's within engagement range of that unit, you get 2 abilities. Everybody gets reroll 1s to hit, already decent. Then, if your unit has one of these keywords, so Call, that's from a character, Ironheart Hearthguard, or Uthar the Destined, another character, the Hearthguarder, an actual unit, then you get to improve the AP characteristic by 1. This applies to all weapons except for Blast. In general, probably pretty decent. I don't know that it's like crazy good, but pretty decent. As we look at the rest of the stuff, this is all about midboard control. The enhancements are all really good. Some of them I think are overcosted, but they're all really good as far as what they say. I think the strats are awesome in this detachment. I would kind of prefer the bonus AP over the index detachment, especially now that we just got the data slate change that gives this 2 free judgment tokens at the beginning, just like the index detachment. I think this is pretty solid. I haven't done a ton of playtesting against Votan, so I'm going a little bit out on a limb here and just kind of going off what I've seen played like in the shop and the kind of list that I've seen do well at tournaments, but it's kind of a toss-up. I don't know that this is objectively better than the other one, but it's definitely good enough that I think it keeps up with the other one, if not is slightly better. I would probably play this one, but again, I haven't quite gotten enough playtesting against these guys to say definitively one way or the other what I do. Still good. Okay, last but not least, Necrons. Each time a Necron model from your army makes an attack, again, shooting or melee, that targets a unit.
Which detachment is this one?
This is the Star Shatter Arsenal.
Got it. Okay. Yep.
So any Necron model in your army that makes an attack that targets a unit within range of 1 or more objective markers, you get to add 1 to the hit roll. Already pretty solid. No restrictions. If they're on an objective, +1 to hit. Seems good. Then, in addition, ranged weapons equipped by Necron vehicles and mounted units, excluding Titanic, also gain the assault ability. So at first glance, obviously you see the vehicle and mounted, and a lot of people talked about when this first came out of like, but you should only be playing vehicle and mounted. It's like discouraging infantry. And I don't think that's actually true, because even the infantry still get the +1 to hit. That's pretty solid. A fair amount of the infantry that you're playing probably have, like half of them have assault on them anyway. So I don't think you're actually losing a whole lot by not spamming vehicles, but there's an argument to spamming vehicles also gets you like a toughness skew. Maybe that's the right answer. Either way, I think this attachment is pretty solid. I'm still not convinced this is like the best attachment, but it's top 3. Like, no questions asked, top 3. Pretty good. There are solid strats. Downside, there's more than one that costs 2 CP. So while the strats are pretty solid, assume you're playing with half as many strats as everybody else. especially because Necrons don't have a lot of cost reduction. So it's actually difficult to play some of those strats. The toughness skew is probably the right answer if I was playing this, just because I think Necrons have really good vehicles, since most of their vehicles have invols on them and stuff like that. Reasonable. Overall, I don't know that I could say that like what I dislike about this, nor what I like about it. It's very solid. It's really good, but it's not, to me, like as cut and dry as to whether or not it's better or worse than some of the others. It lacks some mobility tricks because it doesn't have the uppy downy of the other Necron detachment. It lacks the direct damage output because you're not getting full rerolls from the Canoptic stuff. But as much as all that's being said, it's hard to argue that it doesn't have as much damage output because, again, no restrictions, +1 to hit all the time. No restrictions other than like vehicles, which again are pretty solid. Giving them all assault. There's several vehicles that I normally would say that I don't really like in Necrons, or at least they used to be good and aren't really right now. But giving them assault is not something to scoff at. Like, I don't know that I want to advance and shoot with my Doomsday Arc, but several other vehicles like the Annihilation Barge and stuff like that, being able to kind of feel more comfortable moving out my command barge or whatever else in order to be more aggressive on the objectives. This is pretty solid.
Yeah, I can see it.
I don't hate this.
Yeah. It's not impressive enough to where I think people are going to jump ship and start doing the thing. The other two detachments that Necrons have been playing for a very long time are so like ingrained as to like this is the answer according to the internet. That probably stays true. But on a more local level, I think there's enough tricks here and there's enough power in it to where this is definitely competitively viable and it could totally show up at your shop.
I missed it. Did you say you still get the bonus Heelys or like no bonus Heelys?
That's the faction rule. So yes,
okay.
No matter what detachment, everybody's reanimating all the time.
All the bonus Heelys. Got it. Okay.
Correct.
So I kind of like this one. I'm not gonna lie.
It's really good.
It is.
It's surprising how many abilities Necrons have that are actually not restrictive in the normal way. The fact that like the reanimation or reanimator can reanimate everything all the time. Doesn't matter if it's vehicle or monster or what, like reanimates everybody double the amount. Well, that's pretty good. The only drawback is like the aura is kind of small. That's fine. I don't care. It's really good. But as much as that's true, that like happens all over Necrons. And because the restrictions are always a little odd, I think a lot of people kind of gloss over some of those little details. Again, when this detachment first came out for Grotmas, everyone was like, oh yeah, spam vehicles, that's the answer. And I'm like, man, this is like a generic Necron, everything is good detachment with a minor bonus to vehicles. It's not a vehicle detachment. I would never compare this one to like the Eldar vehicle one. Mm-hmm. Yes, some of the stratagems are restricted to vehicle stuff, but also that's only a couple of them. And since some of those cost 2 CP, I'm going to pretend they don't even exist. Like, it's pretty solid.
So is that the last one?
Yep, that's the last one. That's all I got for this week.
So what is your absolute most favorite detachment right now?
Oh, goodness.
Only pick one. That means you got to pick a faction too.
All right, if we're talking about from this episode, because you said pick one, and of course I'm going to pick two. From this episode, I actually think the March detachment for demons, where they get to bring in CSM. Again, there's so many tools in that toolbox. I could play a new list every week from that detachment for like months, and it would still feel fresh.
Okay, that sounds good. But I know you would never play that. So what's your second pick?
So my second pick I'm torn. It's either between the March detachment for Custodes, because it's playing this super elitist game, and that's what I normally lean towards, or I think the Blood Angels detachment is probably the most well-rounded detachment.
Yes.
Having like the whole detachment encouraging you to play a shooting list in a melee army, and then still having just enough melee support to not lose your flavor and feel effective. It's probably Blood Angels.
Okay. Well, since he stole your answer, what's your answer, Aaron?
Blood Angels.
He's just a fanboy. He doesn't have an opinion.
I don't have an opinion. Blood Angels, baby.
I'm definitely going more docket attachment. I've literally been complaining about it since it didn't exist.
Oh, what an orc player.
Oh, gosh.
That makes sense.
I mean, if I had to pick one that wasn't Blood Angels, I would have to say Fabius Bile, the Fabulous Bill detachment.
And
like
that's a fun detachment. I still think it's a little too random to be as competitive as some of the others.
Do you know who you're talking to? I'm all about random.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair.
All right, well, that's all I got.
That's it. That's your Sky question of the day.
Well,
you
okay.
want a harder question? What do you want from me?
While the people listening have spent like 2 weeks listening to this,
yes,
we've spent one very long day recording many a detachment.
If you want a crazy question, I'll totally give you one.
I got one since I failed and didn't give us one last time. I got one for you. Ready?
Okay.
Which faction, if you had to choose, would you absolutely throw into the sun? Like the whole faction, the whole thing. Spicy.
Oh, I have a funny answer, but I'm trying to think of a serious answer. Okay, funny answer. It's definitely Tzeentch, because that whole faction is for the birds.
For the birds.
It's so bad.
You're right. I'm here for the dad joke.
You're gonna make roasted chicken for like the whole Imperium.
Delicious.
I'd try to think what I would pick.
There goes the hunger strikes across the multiverse.
Yeah, who needs corpse starch? I got bird. It's a little blue, but don't ask questions.
Oh yeah, powdered chicken. That'll be good.
Gosh, if I had to give a real answer.
Yeah, I know. There's not really one you want to throw in.
There's a couple. I'm trying to narrow it down.
I don't like this one.
Okay. All right.
Boom.
Okay, so I feel obligated to call out some sort of chaos faction just because I'm an Imperium player.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I'm being honest, if there was a faction I would make not exist anymore, I think it would actually be Harlequin. And
I disagree.
I like the faction. I like their lore, and I like what they do. The problem is they have waffled between being not a real faction to a standalone faction to a kind of allied thing, but not really. Like the whole Harlequins, like Inari nonsense.
Okay,
it's like,
so
it's never
because of their awkward rules position, I totally get it. Because of the fluff reason, I totally disagree. Because they're just clowns running around checking everybody's library card. Like, it's not a big deal.
You're right, but like their whole aesthetic is like a mix between the like space raider pirate thing of Drakari and the like clean, not creepy thing that is Eldari.
I think they
don't
should
feel like they have their own position.
I think they should.
Clowns, but yeah.
I think instead of clowns, I mean, the clown thing is okay. It's more like their performers is what they should focus on. But I think if they leaned the theme of them more into like performers and martial artists and less literal clowns, it would be better. Because like Emperor's Children are practically literally clowns, but they're different.
Yeah, they're like scary clown, not jester clown.
Yeah, I just think the like martial artist
space.
The martial artist performer thing sounds better. You know what I mean? They're basically like Assassin's Creed elves, is what they should be.
It's just even within their own like model scheme, right? Like some of the coolest looking Harlequins are like the Death Jester, which looks like a Dark Reaper with his collar turned up, and then you have the Shadow Seer, which has the literal helmet of the like bike riders from Jukari with the mirror thing. Yeah, they look cool, but also that's not clown related, and that's not unique to them. They're just stealing bits from their two like sister factions. They don't feel like they have their own place.
Yeah, so
if
I have
an
a
standalone faction and felt good, I'd probably be okay.
I have an answer for you, Aaron.
Let's go. What do you got?
I would like to throw the entire orc line of Beast Snagas straight into the trash.
That's fair.
They belong in Age of Sigmar.
Fair enough.
And in return, I want Exodites. We can throw away Harlequins, and we get Eldar Exodites.
Fair enough.
Period.
Yeah,
That's it.
I also don't like Beast Snagas. Beast Snagas feel like
they're Age of Sigmar.
It's like a subculture of orcs. So like I get why they have them, but also it's like switching detachments. Yeah, they were evil sons this week, and next week they're bad moons or whatever else. Like that could have been the same swap as look, it's boys, and look, it's beast boys. It's like it should just be like a detachment thing, because it's like a subculture, not an actually different thing.
It used to be snake bites, right? The culture. Yeah. Which basically is just a long callback to like basically British terminology here, the savage orcs of like the early 40k game, or I should say early Warhammer, when they were like ported into the sci-fi setting, but they still look like your fantasy models. That's snake bites. To me, Beast Snagas is like we're working backwards to that now. It's kind of whatever.
They almost come off as like Primaris orcs. Like, no, it's the same model, but we made the mold slightly different. So
yeah, but the theming sucks. Like it's all fantasy theming. They barely added some like gears and metal plates to some of them. But I mean, the Age of Sigmar orcs already have metal armor, so like they're not distinct. They're not the cool fluffy orcs.
But
they're not powered by Latin psychic belief madness. Gun works because I believe it does. Orcs. They're just orcs in the woods. Like it doesn't do anything interesting for me.
All right, but counter argument: they're orcs with pelts on them. It's just like I have to deal with Marines, but with pelts on them. I'm getting vanillaed. You get slightly less vanillaed because you're stealing all my pelts.
This devolved into the craziest fucking answer session.
Don't mess with my. Those are my Diga knobs. All right, keep your hands on your own Diga knobs.
Listen,
Diga knob.
I was just gonna say, trash the Redemptor Dreadnought, give everybody a Librarian Dreadnought, and we're all good to go. Okay.
But why would you trash the Redemptor? The Redemptor's not bad. At this point, all the bread boxes are going to go away eventually. Yeah. All the bread boxes are going away eventually. We might as well just speed up that process and say Ironclad and Venerable and those are all just.
Let's just trash all those.
They don't exist anymore.
Give everyone a Librarian Dreadnought and we'll be on our way.
I vote we rent a wood chipper and we let everyone bring their bread box dreadnoughts and they fight it out. And whoever survives the arena of dreadnoughts gets a prize.
And everyone else goes in the wood chipper.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, does anybody else have anything else?
Nope, we've been here long enough.
We devolved.
I've done enough damage. I'll see you next week.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Hey, everybody. It's Aaron. I want to thank you again for tuning in for this episode of Gopher's Workshop with us, hanging out and listening. Remember, leave a 5-star review. Let us know what you think. And if you feel like supporting us, you can always go to Patreon in the show notes below. Thanks. Till next time.